Okay, so in this next video, we're going to build off of the walkthrough that we did at the small engine repair shop. And so we did the walk around, we took all the images we thought we were going to need, and now we're going to go ahead and build a simulation based off that. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I use as far as organizing the photos and then building the simulation. And I think I'm going to build this simulation based on an initial company officer size up strategy and tactics, but I'm also going to add a couple extra images and slides for things like a mayday or fire attack on the inside of the building, things like that, just in case we need them for this simulation or if we want to switch it up a little bit. So the first thing we want to do, we want to bring in all of the photos that we took from the last video. So those were the snapshots that you saw during the video lesson. So I brought those in onto my desktop here in this folder called Sim Photos Raw, and this is just all of the images. Now personally, I like to use this large thumbnail view, and it allows me, the reason I do this is it allows me to see the images pretty quickly and know if I want to use them for this, and then also rename them really quickly right here while I'm at it. So I know that I'm definitely going to use an A-side photo. I did have one other A-side I thought, so I'm going to scroll just to make sure where that one is and see if I want to use that. So yeah, I have this one here. I think I'm actually going to use this one as my initial A-side. And so all you do is I just click on the image on a Mac and click the return key or the enter key, and then I can change this really quickly. It automatically lets me rename it. I just hit enter. So I know I'm going to use side A. And normally what I like to do is I'll go label the images. So in this folder, we might have 40 images. What we want to do is limit it down to the ones that I think I'm going to need to build this scenario. So I know for sure I want an A, a B, a C, a D. So I'll kind of look through the photos and choose the ones that I want. So this is my A side. Again, this was a secondary one, so I'm going to leave that labeled unlabeled, basically, like that. And I'm just going to kind of look through here and see if I want these. I know I'm probably going to use these two, so I'm going to go ahead and rename those, and I'll just call this one, oops, sorry about that. Let's see, let me go back up there. We'll find our gas meter again, and we'll just rename this one gas meter, and then I'll grab electric and go ahead and rename that, because these are images I'm pretty sure I'm going to use during the simulation. So I'm just going to kind of change the names up there. And so now we want to find, I'm looking pretty much for the B side next to kind of try to stay in order. And so I'll scroll down here. This is a pretty good view of the B side of those back areas. I also have this large view here. I think I'm actually just going to use this one on the B side. So again, I'll rename it and we'll just call it B side. And now I could use multiple pictures here. I could use the full B side and then I could use this other one, but I think this gets the point across here. And then I'm also going to use this one because I think on this fire, I'm actually going to put the fire back here in this part of the garage. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this close up. So I'm just going to call this also B side, but I'm going to call it close up. That way I know what that one is. This is my interior part of the B side, and I know I do want to use that as a like a thermal imaging camera sort of search where they have a victim laying there. And so I'm just going to call this also B side victim. And it's just kind of a note to me. We can always change these later when we bring them into the software. So now I want to look at the Charlie side of the building. So we'll kind of scroll through here and find a good view from the back. And I kind of have two different views here. I think I'm going to use, I like this one. That way it's just a full seaside view. If I wanted C and B together, you know, I could certainly do this. But I'm going to just use this one. So we'll just change that one to seaside. And then, of course, our last one's going to be a D side. And in my scenario, there's not going to be a whole lot going on the D side. So I'm actually going to just get this large picture that kind of covers most of this, and we're going to use that one. So I'll just change that one to D side. And I'm going to kind of look through here. see if there's anything else that I'm really concerned about. Most of my fire is going to be over on those two big open garage doors, so I'm not really too worried about the Delta side right now. Inside the building, if I was going to do some interior searches, then I could certainly do these. I think I am going to grab, maybe I'll grab this one, and I'm just going to call this one interior door. And I might do one where they're kind of searching, looking through there for victims or something like that. So we'll leave that one in there. And I think that's pretty much it. This one is the roof inside of that structure. Let me make sure that's a good image. It looks like I might have had a problem with that image. It didn't really load right, so I may have to get that one again. But if I wanted to use the roof like that, I could certainly bring in a roof view and then have an interior crew looking at the roof to inspect it or whatever that might be. Okay, I think that's all we're going to use right now. So when we switch to our list view, you can see here I have all these original pictures here, and then I have all these that I really want to plan on using. And so sometimes I'll keep these here, other times I'll make a copy of them. In this case for today, I am going to make a copy. So I'm just going to select all of these and I'm going to choose copy. And then I'm actually going to close this and I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop. And I'm just going to call it Woodcrest Images Final. And I kind of know that then that's going to be the images that I use for creating the sim. Now, if I wanted to, later on, if I find an image that I need, I can go back into my raw folder and I can bring it over into this folder. But I like to keep all these kind of untouched so that I have a good copy there. I also have another copy on my SSD drive as well. So you always want to keep an untouched copy as well. All right, so these are the images we're going to use. Now, one thing to remember when I install these or pull these images in as I'm building the sim, SimShare also is going to pull those images into the actual sim folder that it creates in the software. So it doesn't run directly off of these images. So you want to make sure you're kind of keeping your copy on your computer, which is this one here. That's my working pictures. And then SimShare will keep the actual pictures as you use them inside the software. And I'll show you that later when we get to our completed sim folder. All right, so we'll go ahead and close that, and we're going to just open up SimShare. And from within the software, we'll go ahead and get started building the sim. All right, so from here, we go ahead and just start with new simulation. And I'm just going to call this Woodcrest. And we're going to select our photos. Now, one other thing here before I do that, we want to choose the hamburger menu and we want to choose set picture compression. Now, by default, it's set to compress the pictures automatically. I like to go ahead and change that. So I scroll down here to no compression and click OK. Now, that will remain for the entire time that we build this simulation. So you only have to do it once. I'm going to choose select photo. We're going to just start with the A side. So we're going to go to our desktop. We're going to choose Woodcrest Images Final. And then these are the ones I renamed. And we're simply going to choose our A side file. Now, once we bring this in, we may want to do our initial adjustment. I can see here that it's a little bit wide. There's really no reason for it to be quite so wide in this scenario that I'm building. And it's a little crooked as well. So what we want to do here is the hamburger menu again, adjust background photo. And from here we can kind of scale to what we're looking for. I think I'm going to scale to about here. And then I'm going to straighten it. Okay, and then we could kind of move it over a little bit too, just center it up on the screen and drop it down a little bit to get me some room up here. Now, remember what I talked about in the last video as well. The larger resolution that you use for your images, the better it's going to be when you're trying, you'll have more flexibility here on moving the image around and still keeping it centered and not pixelated in your simulation. So that looks pretty good. I feel like I need to straighten that up a little bit there. I feel like that looks pretty good. I think we'll leave it there. So we'll click done. And so now I'm going to go ahead. That's my A side. Now there's a couple ways to do this. you could build your A side photos and your B side, and then you could start adding to those as well as you move around. It really depends on the scenario. Sometimes I like to just build A, B, C, and D and then go back and put the fire and smoke. Other times I like to build from the A side and then, kind of just put them all in. It really just depends on how you're going to do it. I think in this one, since the main bulk of my fire is going to be on the B side over here, I don't really want to do anything right now with this side. So I'm just going to leave this alone, and I'm going to go add a new location here. So we're going to go to new location, and this one will be the B side. So we're just going to label it B side. And we'll set our background. Select the photo. And remember, we have a B side and we have a B side close up. But for this one, we're just doing our B side. And we'll go ahead and create that. Okay, so that looks pretty good the way it is. I don't think I really need to move anything. I do want to leave the alley kind of in view back here. So we're just going to leave that one there. And we're going to go on to the Charlie side. So new location again. We're going to call this one C side. We're going to set the background. Select photo, C side. And again, pretty self-explanatory here as we just kind of move around the building. And we'll hit create. And there's our Charlie side. Again, I really like this view. I can see a little bit down this corner. I can see back over here. I got good headroom up here on the top. Looking back at it, I maybe wish I wouldn't have got so much sun up here if I could have gotten rid of some of that reflection. But again, we can definitely make it work. If you needed to, you could also grab this and do adjust photo. And if I zoom it up a little, I can drop it down some. And then what I can do is get that scaled just right. Okay, and then I can get it centered in here nice. Okay, so the next thing we want to do here is new location. And again, this will be D side. Set background, select photo, D side. We'll see how that one looks. That's actually pretty good. I think I'm going to adjust it just a hair. I'm going to scale it just a little bit, and then I'm going to move it over a little bit, just to get a little bit more of the photo in play here. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so these are the only 4 locations I'm going to do, A, B, C, and D. Now, the other thing we want to do is figure out where we want our A side is going to be initial location. So I'm going to choose that. Then I'm going to come in here to rename location. By default, it's initial location, but I'm actually going to make it side A just so everything's consistent. And now when I do manage locations, you'll see I have A, which still sets to the initial, and then B, C, and D. I'm actually, because I want these to be consistent, I can either do B side, C side, D, or I can do A. I did that one backwards. So if I right click and do rename location, I can change that. Okay. And there we go. So now we're good there. We kind of got our basic navigation set up. And I'm actually going to go start on the B side because that's where I'm going to put my fire. And the majority of the fire is going to be right here in this building, this back area. And yeah, I think I'm going to put it in this door here. So what we want to do is just go new element. And we had to kind of decide, is this going to be this full room full of fire? Is it going to be, just light smoke, whatever it might be? I'm thinking I actually want it to be a fairly large fire coming out here, and kind of coming up over the roof. So I'm going to go to all smoke, and we kind of have a couple different options here. The auto ignition is always really good, but again, it can tend to be, for what we're doing here with a big door, it may not always look the best. So I know I definitely want some of this banking down smoke inside the door, so we'll start with that. And again, we're going to scale this down. And we're going to kind of put it in here. Okay, so in this case, I want it to be narrow. Like I don't want it covering up the entire door. So I'm actually going to go pretty narrow. Well, you can see what happened here when I scaled it. It looks pretty good. Let me readjust. So right there, that looks pretty good, except for the fact that it doesn't cover this whole thing. And you really have two options there. You can also duplicate the element and overlap it over this smoke and put two of them there so that it gets wide enough. Or you can go to your pencil menu, transform, narrow and widen, and now I can make it longer without it getting thicker, closer to the ground. So I'll kind of get that where I think I want it, maybe a little bit more, and then I can go ahead and move it over. So I'll click done, I'll grab it, and I'll kind of move it into place. Okay, and then any of these, as you're going along, you can always push play here and just kind of see what you have. Now in this case, I can see I want that to be a little bit quicker. So I'm going to grab the speed and I can kind of move the speed up and watch it play. That's pretty good. I want it to be pretty good fire. Good. And I think, to be realistic, we definitely would have the same thing going on over here. So I'm actually just going to grab that element, grab the hamburger menu, copy. Then I'm going to come over here, click off. I'm going to grab the hamburger menu again and paste. And it's going to paste that same element. And the reason for doing that is because now it's exactly the same as it was. So I have the same speed, the same color as I would over here, which makes it realistic. So we don't want to scale this. Again, like I said before, I'm going to scale it just a little so it doesn't look exactly the same. Another thing you can do is rotate it. So sometimes you can grab this and do transform horizontal. And then when I hit this button, it flips it around and you can see kind of the fatter end here is now on the opposite side. So just so they don't look exactly the same. And then so I can click done there and I can go ahead and do the transform to narrow and widen. I'll just spread it out. Something like that. We'll kind of get it into place there. Now that door looks a little crooked, so I have to adjust. All right, so that's pretty good. So we can see when we play that, we get pretty good smoke there. Now, depending on where we want our fire to be here, we could have it, coming out the window. Let me click edit here again. Okay, so, we can look at, do we want it, coming up over the top here? Do we want fire back in the room? And that's more what I'm looking for. I want to have some fire back here behind this. And so in this case, we'll go ahead and put some flames in now, and then we'll layer some more smoke on as we go. So for fire, I have a couple different options here. The flame front is a pretty good flame that I like. Really, the ground fire ignition wouldn't be bad because it would show like it was coming up from the ground, like maybe a mower or something in there was on fire. Let's just play with it. Let's take a look at ground fire. Okay, so that's not too bad. I can just set that one over here. And I'm actually going to, one of the things I do sometime when I'm trying to figure out, which one I want to use, we got basic fire. We can set that there. And we also could grab another one. The ceiling fire actually looks really good, and you can flip it around. I'll scale this one down. And sometimes, I'll flip this one this way and have it coming down, and we can kind of play these and see what we like, or sometimes a combination of both. Okay, so in this case, I think we're going to mess with ground fire and see if we can make that work first. So I'm going to keep this guy up here out of the way. And I'm just going to move ground fire in. Now, my issue here is I don't want it to be showing outside the building yet. This is what's going to be going on inside. So we're going to throw a quick mask on here just so we can keep everything inside. So we'll go to utility, and then we'll do a mask. We're going to just drag that over, and we want to get it somewhere inside the door. We click the pencil again, and what I do is I line up just the first corner. I know this is a little crooked, but I can adjust that. So we're going to go to the pencil and we're going to choose mask boundaries, which that allows us to start editing the mask boundaries. So we're going to kind of get this guy dropped in about where we want him. In this case, it's pretty easy because it's just the 4 sides of the door, like that. If I needed to, I could add an extra point by just clicking the plus, and then wherever I click on the line, it'll add more points in, and we can add or subtract. So if I want to get rid of that point, I keep it highlighted, I click minus, and you can see I'm back to normal. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and drop this fire here. And then remember the selection rotator here as well. So I want to select the mask. If the fire's on top of it, it's hard to select. So when you hit the rotator, it will go through and select the different items. Once you have the mask selected, now you can click on it, and now you're editing the mask. And you can see that up here with CS mask. So now I want to grab the mask, and I want to tell it which to mask. So when I click which to mask, it's going to give me all the elements I have on the screen, and I'm going to mask the ground fire. So I click that. Okay, and we click done. And the last thing I want to do, I'm also going to grab that mask again, and I'm going to click mask type, and I'm going to change this to a portal mask because I really want the fire to be inside the door, not outside. So let's see what we got. Okay, so there you go. So we have that fire there. Now, a couple issues I see. Number one, it's too big. Number two, it's way too fast. And also, my smoke is behind my fire. So let's adjust those things. So we'll go back, and when we grab, this time we want to grab the ground fire, and we want to move it forward. And that's easy because these order buttons are right here on the left. So if I click the up button, it's going to move it to the front, and once it goes away, I know it's all the way to the front. So actually, I take that back. That wasn't the one I wanted in the front. We're going to move it to the back like that because we wanted the smoke in front. And so I think that's pretty good. And now I'm also going to edit the ground fire speed. So we'll grab that, and we're going to go speed, and we'll bring it way down. Maybe something like 5, 6. Okay, and I probably want to scale the ground fire as well. So here's where we can drop that down, and then we'll be able to kind of just move it around in there. Maybe scale it up a little. And this is just something you got to kind of play with and to get the look that you're going for. We'll see how it looks. Okay, that's not bad. Now, one thing I don't want, I can see, I don't want this to be this close to the door. I want to actually have the fire be further back, and it's also still too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and back up. And we can grab that again. So I want to scale it down some. I want to move it back so it appears to be kind of deeper into the building. And I'm going to slow it down just a little bit again. You know, and you may think like, oh, this is a lot of work, you know, for this one simulation. But in reality, your first view where they're making their decision, that's the one that you want to look the best. You want it to have that real feeling, the realism. And so, you know, it's okay to spend a little time on this first one, getting it where you want it to be. Now that looks pretty good. So I think that's a pretty realistic fire, kind of deep seated in that garage. You can see I got a couple of spots here where it's poking around. So we can quickly fix that. We just grab we're looking for that smoke there, this one. And I'm going to tilt it a little. Now another thing, right here, you can't really see the smoke because of all this other stuff going on. We can click hide other elements, and it actually takes away everything except what we're working with so that we can actually, you know, see better what we're doing. So I think I'm just going to make that a little bigger and make sure it comes up a little and hides the door. Now that looks pretty good. So let's see how that looks. There we go. So that's pretty good. Now, the other thing that we're going to want, we have that smoke coming down, and we're going to need some smoke here coming up because obviously we'd have a lot of smoke here in the air. I think for this one, I use this bright cloud fire quite a bit, but I think for this one, we're going to let that go, and I'm just going to copy. I'm actually just going to copy this other one here. I think we're going to not put a bunch of fire here either. You know, I could make it a pretty hardcore scenario with a bunch of fire in both of these, but I think we're going to just say for now that it's mainly in this back one, even though there is a doorway here. You know, maybe it was shut or whatever. Okay, so we're good there. So now we want to have some smoke that's coming up over the top of the roof. So we'll do a new element. We'll look at all of our different smoke options. Obviously the eaves, we're going to put some smoke up there. Let's go ahead and do that now, and that'll help, and then we can layer on top of that. So I'm going to grab the eaves here, and I can pretty much line this up, even though I know I'm going to move it over here. You know, you can line it up anywhere that you want all along this eave, but I know I need to scale it and adjust it. Okay, so we're going to scale it to, and what I'm looking for here is the thickness, basically. I don't care about how long it is. I just want it to be the right, whoops. I just want it to be the right height of smoke. You know, which really I just kind of wanted to cover that whole part of the area. And I could scale a little more. Might be able to get away with just scaling that. Because, realistically, we wouldn't really end up with a lot down at the end. That's pretty good right there. And again, we can always use our good old narrow and widen and get that exactly, you know, kind of where we want it to be. I think that's pretty good right about there. Now I'm looking, I want to slow it down. I want to color it darker. So those are two things. So we'll go ahead and do that. So first we'll go to color, and we're already set to black. So I know I just want to make it more intense to kind of start to match. I don't want it to be quite as dark as what's inside the rooms there, but I want it to be going that direction. You know, obviously this would be too dark. So just something maybe like that. And again, I know it's fast, so we need to go to speed and drop it way down, maybe to like 4. We'll take a look. Okay. I feel like this also needs to be a little taller, and it needs to drop down more closer to the doors so we don't have this gap. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to grab this, I'm going to scale it just a little bit, then I'm going to drop it down, kind of like that. And we'll see how that looks. That's pretty good. And again, I think now I'm going to raise it up because I came too far down, but we don't necessarily need this smoke to be super, super realistic. I mean, it's just kind of smoke that's underneath the eaves there, just kind of hanging out, accumulating a little bit, something like that. And I may even go to opacity here. I think I want to drop that down just a little bit, make it a little more opaque. And again, you can always adjust these and come back in and, you know, if you decide you need it to be darker. But a lot of times what makes your simulation look pretty fake is when you try to go too dark with 1 or 2 pieces of smoke. Definitely when you layer in the smoke, you're going to get a much more realistic look. And remember, at the end, we're going to come back here with a large smoke that just covers this whole screen, just kind of like the ambient smoke that would be in the area. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add some stuff over the doors and, you know, some smoke coming out the doors. So again, let's see which one looks good. I always like auto ignition. The gas approach we're definitely going to use. I'll show you how you can take some laminar smoke here and sort of adjust it to what you need. So laminar smoke by default is just like that, laminar smoke. We know we want this to be really wide. So we start out by narrow and widening under transform, and we go as wide as we can. So that gives us right off the bat a little better look. I'm going to scale it down so you can see it. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of move it over. And that's just a good overall, it kind of just hangs in the area. It's kind of showing you some smoke. So first, let's change the color. And let's get it to the dark of what would be coming out of that doorway. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we obviously need to slow it down just a little. So we'll drop it down. And I'm kind of trying to, you know, I want the smoke to be climbing up and I want it to be a decent fire, but I also want it to kind of match the smoke here coming out of over the eaves. So let's take a quick look and see what we got. Okay, that's not too bad. I think this needs to be a little faster, and it needs to cover more of the door because I got that smoke on the door going pretty fast. So we're going to grab this and change the color. Go a little darker, and then we're going to go a little faster. Maybe 14. Okay, we'll take a look. And again, it's pretty close to what I got here. Now the question is, do I keep this smoke in front of that or do I put it behind? And we're going to layer some of this laminar smoke as well. But I could also put it behind that other one. So let's see. Let's just take a look. That might have went too far back, but we'll see how it looks. Okay, so it needs to come in front of that. That doesn't look right there. So when I grab this, and I'm looking for this smoke now to pop in front of that banking down smoke. Oh, went the wrong way. Oh, I was wondering what the problem was there. I grabbed the wrong one. So let me back that up. Okay, so I accidentally grabbed my smoke on the eaves instead of the laminar. Okay, so we want to move this forward. You can see there it just popped in front of that other smoke. And so now we'll take a look. Yeah, that's a little more realistic. It's going to be coming out like that. And I actually think I want to narrow this just a little bit. I think I went too far. I'm going to narrow it up a little. And then by doing that, now when I grab it, I can actually darken it a little bit more to get a little closer to that room. Okay, so I think that should be pretty good. And again, we're going to put some just general overall smoke here in a little while that'll kind of cover this and tone it down because we don't want that to be so obvious there. And my smoke on my eaves now looks too opaque because I adjusted it. So we're going to go back to opacity and we're going to go the other way. There we go. And we'll take a look. All right, so that's pretty good. I think I'm actually going to leave that like that. I also need to get something covering this, which is probably just move this over a little. There we go. That should be pretty good. There we go. I like that. And actually, you know what? I'm changing my mind. Well, I want to grab this, the gray laminar, the laminar, and I want to copy and paste it. So we'll copy that, and we'll just move it over here to the other side. Oops. Click here, and we'll choose paste. And I'm actually just going to move it over, and I don't know that I'm going to use this here. I'm going to scale it down first of all, because there's not nearly as much fire there. And I'm going to just try to make it less aggressive. So I'll scale it down. I'm going to change the opacity to make it less of anything. And maybe I'm going to adjust the color as well to kind of make it a little more gray. Let's just see what that looks like. My idea here is that there's just some smoke coming over and just making its way out from inside that roof. And I'm wondering if I want to go ahead and get rid of this altogether. Because I feel like it's a little too aggressive for that door unless I'm going to put active fire in that side of the door, which I don't think I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and just get rid of that. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And we'll grab this guy and delete him and then bring this back. That's a little more realistic there. We just got just some smoke that's coming out of that side. Maybe something like that. Let's see how that looks. All right, so I think that's pretty realistic. I mean, there is a wall here. That door could be closed. We have the working fire back here, and we just have some smoke coming out over here. All right, so I think that's pretty good for the pre-arrival. Now, one thing I want to do here, I'll show you how we do that laminar smoke here. And what I normally do on these is I'll grab new element, smoke, and we're going to do the gas approach smoke. And I just bring it up here to the corner and I scale it. And then I rotate it upside down so it's kind of going up instead of down. Okay, now we want to go to opacity and we want to bring it all the way down to where we can see. And we're going to change the color to a darker color. And again, it depends on the scenario that you're looking for. This is kind of weird because the darker you make it, the less it seems like there's that much smoke. So you really want to find kind of a middle of the road, something maybe like this. And then you want to use opacity to pretty much make any changes. So if you want it darker or thicker, more dense, you kind of do that. And if you want it lighter, obviously you can bring it down. So in this case, I'll kind of tweak it up. I mean, this would be too much, and it's kind of just a happy median. I will say sometimes you want to err on less instead of more, because when you put this on, if you do put this on a projector, sometimes it can get really dark. But you can see here, that's kind of our general look of what we got going on. So we have a ground fire here up into the ceiling, a lot of smoke there, pretty turbulent smoke here, and then this smoke here. All right, so that's pretty good, and we're going to build off of this now as we go around the building, okay? So the first thing I know that I want to do is I want to bring this turbulent smoke. That's my main smoke that we're going to see from down the road or, you know, anywhere that we're responding from. So I'll choose that smoke. I go through my, oops, I just missed it, my selection rotator. I grab that smoke, and we're going to just hit copy. Okay, and I'll hit done, and now we're going to go to the Charlie side just because it happens to be right there. So when I'm on the Charlie side, they're basically going to see this plume. They might see a little bit of smoke from the eaves, and that's really all they're going to have on the Charlie side is this main big plume here, unless we have an open window where they might have some fire or see some fire. So for now, we're going to just go to another location. We'll go to the Charlie side, and again, from here, right away, I'm looking that we would have a big ball of smoke here, so let's just paste it in, see how it looks. Okay, so again, that's exactly what I had on the other side, so maybe I want it just to look like this or like this so I can still show some of this. And so wherever that's going to be, obviously we need to mask out this building here real quick. So I'm going to mask out mainly from right here, probably to the bottom of this right here. Okay, so I'm going to just go mask, utility, and mask. And I'm going to just kind of go like this. Now this one's going to need a lot of boundaries. So I know that already. So I'm just going to go ahead and start building. Let's see, we might be better off doing this guy like this. Then this one will end up coming all the way across to here. And then it's easier to just add your other points as you go. I'm going to click hide other elements to get rid of that smoke. And we're going to just add some points here. So I know this one's going to go there. I'll add one here. And we'll just kind of build this here as we go. We're not going to have a lot of fire over here, so we really don't need to get too detailed because we're not necessarily hiding the smoke from there. Our main area is kind of this center section here. So we really want to make sure this top is nice, but the rest of these, you know, we don't have to put too much detail in. So we'll drop this guy in. This might be one that we have to kind of adjust as we go. And we'll just add another one. All right, so that's pretty good. And then I usually like to put a couple right at the end so that we can drop down pretty low. So I probably will go ahead and put just a few more out here. Okay, and then this one will just drop down. And then same thing here, this line will come down. So that's going to give me this whole area. So we'll drop that, our smoke back in. We'll bring it back in. And remember, we need to tell our mask which items to mask. So we choose the pencil while the mask is already selected. And we do which to mask, our gray laminar. By default, it's a normal mask, so we don't need to change that. And you can see that's pretty good, actually, the way we got it on the first shot. So we'll probably just leave that one there and let this smoke come up. May want to try moving it just a touch to the right. Let's see how that looks. Maybe drop it down a little so that they're seeing more of the... There we go. I think that's pretty realistic there. Yep, I think that looks pretty good. I think I'll leave it. I'm just going to tweak it back just a touch. But I think we're good. Okay. Now, I'm getting a funky thing here. And you can see my mask there, so I'm going to grab the mask again. I'm not sure if I touched that or what happened to change that boundary, but we'll just fix it real quick. And then we'll go ahead and play again. All right, so that looks pretty good. Everything's adjusted well. And I still want to put my laminar smoke there. So to save time, we can just quickly go back to the B side, click on this smoke, copy and paste. And then we'll come back again to our Charlie side and paste it in. And the nice thing there is I don't have to change any of the opacity or anything like that. So here's my Charlie side. And I think we'll call that good, just like that. All right, we'll go ahead and go over to the D side now. And again, I know I'm going to need my other flame, but I also already have the other one on my clipboard from before. So let's just go over there first to the D side and just drop that one in. So we'll just paste it. And then what I can do is actually just move it down here, sort of out of the way, like that. And I should still be able to work up here and leave it on the screen. So now I'm going to go back to the B side. And I'm going to, again, find that, my main smoke here. Grab that. And we're going to copy it. And then we can just paste it over on the D side and start again. So again, here, I'm actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and do it because then I can show you. So we paste it in here. Again, it's going to be sort of way up here. Maybe just seeing it going that way. And you can also take this and kind of twist it so that we can show that the smoke's kind of coming across the building and kind of out into this area. Remember, we're going to put a little mask here, so it's not going to be too big of a deal as far as where it is. Okay, so I'm going to end up putting a mask across there. So let's just do that real quick. New element, utility and mask. And again, we just want to mask off pretty much the top of the building. And that's pretty simple. We just run that all the way down like this. And this is a cool point too, because we can bring this in and we're going to mask this roof off, but we're still going to leave these bricks up here to where they can get some smoke on them if it happens to be kind of pushing down that way a little bit. So let's just go to our mask and do which to mask. And again, it's our laminar smoke. And we'll see how it looks. Okay, again, that's pretty good. I have a little bit of a black line here, so I'm going to bring the mask down just a little bit to get rid of that. So I'll grab that. Mask boundary. I'm just going to drop it down a little on both sides. And this is kind of one of those things you just have to test it out and see how it looks. Again, I still have a little bit there, but I actually kind of like how that's even now. So I think we'll go with that. And we're just going to go back and we're going to bring our laminar smoke and bring it kind of back into the picture. Make sure it's covering everything. And that's going to be it over here on the D side. So again, pretty realistic there. All right, now all we have left for exterior views is the A side. Again, obviously we have a lot to do here. We're going to have some smoke over here on the side. We're going to have quite a bit up here on top. We're going to have to mask out the actual building. And again, not too big of a deal. So let's go ahead and just jump in. Now for this first one, I'm going to paste in. We should have it on our clipboard. There we go. So we have our smoke. And sometimes I like to sort of lay this out, scale it, and just kind of see where I'm going to put it. I think I'm liking it more on the roof. And then kind of twist it a little. There we go. Something like that. And then, of course, all this masked out. Maybe a little more that way. Just to give that definition over there. So for now, what we're going to do is just move this guy over here out of the way. And we'll do our mask first. So new element and utility and mask. And remember, we can bring it over here. Maybe let's try different. Let's try building it from right here. And then we're going to hide that other element there and do mask boundaries. Okay, and again, just start building. So here I know I'm going to come down quite a bit. And then here, I'm going to come out. And I'll go ahead and just start adding those in as we go. And some of these, you don't exactly know where they're going to go until you kind of drop the one in before it, and then you might realize you have to straighten out a line or something to that effect. But I think that's actually pretty good right there. I'm just going to bring this one out. I don't think I'm going to come past that, so I think we'll be okay leaving that where it is. I'll bring this one over. And I know we're going to be sort of at the edge of the building on that one. And then we'll just add these center ones in here. And it's okay, like on this brick, it's okay to actually kind of be on the brick. Where you have a problem is if you're up and you see sky through there. If you see the brick, you're just going to kind of be cutting it off a little bit. You won't even notice that with the smoke. But if you leave sky visible, that's where you end up with a little bit of an issue. And there's a good example. You can see I thought I had that lined up right, but it's actually a little off. So if I grab that previous one and just come to the right a little, should be good. And then bring this one back a little. All right, so that should be somewhat in the ballpark. So let's go to which to mask and gray laminar. Okay, we'll bring that over and I just want to throw it in here just to see if it covers most of that. So we'll see how it looks. Yeah, I like that. I think that's pretty good. I got a little bit of a white spot, I think, right here that I could maybe clean up. Let me look on the wall here as well. Make sure we got all that. Okay, so that's not too terrible. I'm not going to be down here at the bottom, so that's not going to matter. I think I'm just going to fix... I'm going to fix this little corner guy, and you can see where that's a little crooked as well. We grab our mask, and we do mask boundary. So it was this guy needed to come back. And maybe down a little. And let's see if I got it. Okay, so I moved it out of there, but then I messed it up there. So again, a little tedious, but you know. All right, we'll see how that looks. There we go. And you can see I got rid of all that white that I had back there. And the side looks good. I think this all looks pretty good. I feel like everything needs to shift over to the left a little bit. I got a little too much in the back. So I'm going to come up a little and left a little. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I like that, but I don't like how I'm too thin down here. So just a little tweak like this. That should be good. And it's kind of realistic because this could run up the gutters or run up the edge of the building and then be coming up to the front. So take a quick look. Yep, I think that's pretty realistic there. And again, the only thing we need to add is our Laminar Smoke. So I can grab that from anywhere. I actually just grab it from the D side. I got my gas approach smoke. I'm going to copy and paste. And now we'll go back out to A. And we'll just paste it in. Okay, good. And we'll play that. There you go. I think that's pretty realistic, actually. Okay, so that's all four sides of our building. Now, a couple different views. Let's go back and look at the B side, since that's kind of our main area. And let's make sure we're happy with this one. All right. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. One of the things I'm going to do is we'll do an interior view. I want to show you guys just a little extra thing for when you're doing your search. If you want to throw a victim in with like a thermal imaging camera type of view. And so I'll show you what that looks like. It's pretty cool. So let's say they're searching over here on this side, and we're going to have to do it over here. But it really doesn't matter what, where the actual interior of the building is. But so let's come in here and let's go new location. And we'll call this, let's call it workshop victim. And again, you can name these any way you want. I'm going to select the photo. And this will be the one where I had, what do they call it? Victim, I think. Yeah. So they're in here searching, looking around, and you could easily, once you do this, you could easily just put a victim here on the ground. That's as simple as new people, and you could do a firefighter. Maybe it's a mayday, and you could do that. So let's do that. We'll do a firefighter down. We could put them in here. We can move them around. Kind of put them up here. Okay, something like that. And then remember, on those victims, you can always come in here to brightness, and you can either blur or change, obviously the brightness. Well, one of the cool things we can do is if we have a bunch of smoke, and you'll see where I'm going with this, but you kind of get this to where you're at the white. And then now we're going to grab all smoke and our wonderful gas approach smoke again. Scale it up, and then we're going to change that color to kind of a darker smoke. We're going to change the opacity. Like that. And I don't like the speed either. I could drop it way down, especially if we're in overhaul. Probably wanted it like 3. Okay, and maybe we want to grab that victim. He's kind of back in the corner. Maybe something like that. Okay, and then we can get a thermal imaging view. So, if we tell them they're searching that room, and then we show this view to, the engine or the RIT team or whoever it might be, then they're going to report, that they found the victim. You can put text in here, and you could say click to remove victim, or radio that you've found the victim and you're coming out, whatever you need to do to match the type of scenario. But that's a kind of a cool thing to do there with the interior views. All right, so that is going to actually conclude our build for this scenario, and hope you enjoyed that. Again, this will be a initial company officer size up type scenario. You could certainly add, and you've seen in the other videos in the course, you can add arrow views, you can add pictures of hydrants, you could add an interior search scenario, whatever it might be. But for setting up the CTC and for doing an initial size up and company officer development, this is all we need. We can upload this now to our CTC. So let's actually, I'll go ahead and show that too. It's covered later on in the course as well, but this will give you just another look at how we do that. So we'll go ahead and back out here. And yes, and so with this scenario here, this Woodcrest, I like to rename these. So I'm gonna choose rename, and I'm just gonna call it So for me, this means it's an engine repair store, company officer scenario, and CTC means I'm going to use it in the CTC, which means it does not have controls built into the simulation. I'm going to control it in the CTC on the fly. And of course, I would put in scenarios. I would put in a staging area and some of those other things if I was using it as an incident commander type scenario. But again, in this case, we're not doing that. And so now we want to upload this. So it's as simple as we highlight the simulation we're on. We choose Upload Sim. We choose our repository and choose Connect. It's going to bring up our password page, and that should be saved. If it's not, it's your SimShare username and password for your CTC. If you don't have it, you can reset it, or you can get it through SimShare. And we go ahead and do that. We grab the sim we want to move over. We click to repository and we choose start, and that's going to upload that simulation to our CTC, and then we have it ready to go. There we go. And now that's going to show up inside of our CTC ready to run as a simulation. So I hope you enjoyed that video of the full kind of walk around and how I get my pictures and do my simulations, and then this build here of an actual SimShare simulation you can run inside the CTC. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.